Hey gang, everyone here. Welcome on back to the Cade and our new playthrough. If you watched our last episode for Super Robot Wars 3, again, that was not a fun little video to shoot, but it was one we needed to put together because we realized at the time that we'd really made a bit of a gaffe in putting that series together. And it wasn't panning out the way we wanted to. And we said at the time, we want to continue to do stuff that highlights this franchise of Super Robot Wars, but let's go a little bit further ahead. So what we did was we decided we have jumped over to 2001 and the PlayStation 1, and we're going to play Super Robot Wars Alpha Gaiden. Now, as we said on our final Super Robot Wars 3 episode, this game, while it has a lot of the same characters and a lot of the same general concepts of previous Super Robot Wars games, it is an entirely different animal. It's got different graphics, it's got a different layout, it's got different controls, it's got everything a bit different. The other thing is that this is one of the games that is set in, again, this franchise spans 30 years and more than 50 games. And in that span, there is multiple different timelines and there's multiple different storylines. So this game occurs after Super Robot Wars Alpha, hence Alpha Gaiden. The Earth Federation has covered up many of the events that ended that particular game. And what has happened is that a shockwave from a battleship at the end of that series has been unleashed and is in the process of threatening to wipe out both the outer space colonies surrounding Earth and Earth itself. So what we're having to do is we're having to combat that with what's called the Aegis system, which could shield the Earth sphere from the shockwave. Now, like I said, this game came out in 2001 on the PlayStation in Japan only. It was never released in the US. And that was in keeping with our original ideology behind putting these playthroughs together, was to bring to light a series that had never seen the light of day officially in the United States before. It was only released in Japan. And we said during Super Robot Wars 3, the reason why that happens is because this series has so many different IP involved in it that if they tried to release it here or outside of Japan, it would not have been cost effective for Banpresto, now Bandai Namco, who makes these games, to absorb that cost. So we start this first scenario at the Saotome laboratory in Japan. This is the home of Getter Robo. And we are now having to fend off who are known as the characters who are known as the Titans. Now, because we're at the Saotome laboratory, we're going to start with two of my favorite sets of characters in the game, Getter Robo and Getter Robo G. Well, except we're not going to get all of Getter Robo G. Because Hayato, the pilot of Getter Liger, which is the second component fighter rocket for Getter Robo G, isn't here. So we're having to make do with Getter Dragon, Getter Poseidon, and the original Getter Robo piloted by Musashi, who was one of the original trio in that series. And spoiler alert for a now 50-year-old anime, does not survive over to Getter Robo G. That's why he is replaced with Benkei, who is the pilot of Getter Poseidon. So what we've got to do in this first scenario is we've got to defend the lab, which is part and parcel with what Getter Robo was all about. There was always no end of bad guys who were trying to come and destroy the lab and get their hands on the Getter Robo or Getter Ray generator that powers both versions of the robot. So what I want to do for right now is I want to have these guys here. So we've got 5 guys here, and we've got these two who look like bosses over here. We want to bait these guys to come over and take on us. Because the one thing I can't afford to do in this first scenario is I can't lose either of these ships. If Getter Robo goes down, it won't be a fail, but I won't be in good shape. Now, if you watched our Super Robot Wars 3 playthrough, you will see the difference graphically between that and this right away. And that they went with more of a 3D tactical grid as opposed to the standard top-down grid that was on the Super NES, which was what they were capable of at the time. You have to remember, there is a 8-year difference and one full generation of consoles between Super Robot Wars 3 and this game. So we are faced with the option of, we can either have Ryoma and Benkei leave the lab, which will end the scenario, or we can stay and fight, defend the lab, and we will have to take out all these enemies and risk the failure on this introductory mission. If we stay and defend the lab, we will also get a skill point for staying behind. We won't get as much in terms of credits to upgrade our ships with, but we will still get a hefty amount. So Ryoma would never leave the lab. I don't care what anybody else would tell him to do. He's just that hot-headed. So he'll stay and defend the lab. Benkei will stay with him. And we'll have these 5 guys to deal with and then likely take on the bosses after that. Now, fortunately, these guys are basically red shirts. They're not super powerful. But I'm very limited in weapons for what Getter Dragon and Getter Poseidon can do because we can't convert into Getter Robo G. So I've got cannons and I've got missiles. But luckily, the missiles are more than enough to take down these red shirts. The one thing I have to be careful of is making sure that these guys take too much damage. Like I said, I don't want to be able to have to deal with losing them. So I'm going to have Musashi come up and do a bit more damage with Getter 1. Now, as we said in episode 10 of our Super Robot Wars 3 playthrough, the big issue we had in trying to get through that game was the mechanics were so far off in terms of hit and miss rate that unless you had absolute 100% certainty that you were going to hit a target, you could be at 98% and you were like, there was a good chance you were still going to whiff. Whereas your opponents could have 30% possibility of hitting you and still take you out. And we have 3 more reinforcements that have shown up. Now, are these guys going to move? Nope. They're going to hold station. These guys are going to move over. They're going to move over. They can't move very far because they're in forested area over there to the west. That's good for us. Now, the other reason why I want to play this version of the game is that while we are being able to show these little animation bits, one of the big improvements they made from going from the PS, or from the Super Nintendo to the PS1, I should say, is they allowed different things to be able to take out stuff like the animation sequences. So I can skip through. Ooh, I can't have Ryoma taking shots like that. But this is another thing where if you have complementary vehicles next to each other, they will automatically support the first one. So I didn't have to do anything to have Benkei make that attack. The computer did it on its own. All right, so still 26% possibility that the Marasai can hit Getter Poseidon. And I really want to soften this thing up so Musashi can take it out. Now, because I already used Ryoma's turn, I don't think he'll be able to help out on this attack. But on the whole, because this game has been because it's been translated to English, that was the primary reason why we want to play it. But also, they did enough graphical improvement overall. So what I can do is I can, on the sub menu down below, I can either go to attack, counter, evade, dodge. I can have adjacent supporting units, which I don't have right now, and I can turn the animation off. And that's going to make these playthroughs a lot quicker. It's going to make each episode a lot quicker. Because unless I want to do, like, I can show you the first couple attacks, but then I can also just let it run without having the animation go, and it will cut down so much more time. So they're still not moving yet. Now here these guys come. And these two guys are going to move. Okay. So we've got 3 guys heading that way towards the lab. So now... Uh-oh. Oh, that's a good sound. That means we have reinforcements. And we've got, I believe that is Zeta Gundam. Not sure who that is. And it looks like we've got a supplemental ship. So it's V Gundam and Zeta Gundam. All right, so I want to have these two heal up. And actually, I want to move these guys first. Because I want to have them ready for the guys coming from the east. Sashi gets hit, but he doesn't take too much damage, which I'm fine with. Ryoma come back with the Getter missiles. That should be enough to put that Marasai down, which it did. And move Poseidon over this way to deal with that guy. All right. And now they're moving. Alright, see if I can evade this, because I didn't realize he had a long cannon. And they're going to move up. Which means I want to get him out of the way first. I didn't want to have him wait. I was hoping he would attack. And he whiffed. And the supplemental attack from Getter 1 puts him down. That's a critical hit. Bye-bye. So move Realma that way. Now we'll turn the animation back on because it's the first time we're seeing the V-Dash Gundam. So let's see what this thing does. Now this is one of the new Gundams that I have seen in this series. And there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 Gundam franchises represented in this game. All right, and we'll see what Zeta Gundam can do. With Camille. But in these animation sequences, I like the vibrancy of the color in it, and I like the depth of field you get off of it. Like how you see the Saotome laboratory in the background and the mountains and everything. That was something that always appealed to me about these games, was seeing the mechs in action doing what they do. I always thought that was really cool. Alright, so he's going to try and hit me with that cannon again, and I have the Hyper Mega Launcher, so he can't hit me, and I have a 100% chance of hitting him. Dude, he is beefy. And that would explain why he can hit me so far. He's got this massive cannon on his back with a folding barrel that can make him propel stuff super far. But I got the High Mega Launcher. Zap. All right, and I need to make sure I don't get hit on this shot. And I don't recall seeing the white arc before. I believe this is from Gundam. And it may be from Zeta Gundam. But it's not a capital ship. It looks like it is the equivalent of a gunship. All right, we couldn't do a secondary attack. Oops, I forgot to turn the animation off, but we'll be okay. We still got about 10 minutes left in this episode. Like I said, my goal for these episodes, now that we can kind of speed up each fight, is to try and keep it around 45 or 30 minutes, no more than 45 minutes. And Benkei will be able to follow up with this shot. All right, so he is toast. I'll bring Uso back over this way and let him attack this guy, and then I'll turn the animation off because we've already seen what happens with the beam rifle. And we've already seen the Hyper Mega Launcher on this tanky boy. And this should be enough to put him down. Easy. Bye-bye. So now, can I hit either one of these? So it's 76% with the Getter Beam versus 100% with the Mega Particle Cannon. Turn the animation on because we haven't seen the Getter Beam yet. Well, we will put it to the test of just how good the hit physics are in this game. Because the Getter Beam is Getter 1's most powerful weapon. And unlike with Getter G, it doesn't come out of its head, it comes out of its gut. But 76%, we bashed the heck out of him. And Musashi took a good shot there. But I should be able to heal him up all right. It's 78% hit with the missiles. Hopefully this will work as well, because it's 64% coming back. I mean, if he can hit me with return fire and it lands, Benkei may not survive this. But we're good. And we get a part out of it. We get magnet coating, which will be helpful. All right, so 62% to land with the beam saber, 100% with the overhand cannon. We haven't seen the overhand cannon yet. Kakrakan. That's why the Titans should be the ones to run Project Aegis. False information. Boy, that's prescient right now, ain't it? And 62% he didn't land with a beam saber. Ooh, that was grade A bang bang. Goodbye. One shot, you're gone. Well, down you went. We get a propellant tank. The propellant tank, if I remember right, is an energy replenisher. We get a skill point. Now, skill points in this game, they help you if you are looking to get specific endings. They're not things you can really apply in the game itself. I've never really been sure about why they are incorporated into the game. But if you can meet certain mission parameters, then you will get them. So now we're looking to see anywhere from Far East Base or the Photonic Labs, which the Photon Lab is where Mazinger Z is housed. Lost contact. The Titans have launched simultaneous attacks on all of Japan's major scientific institutions along with the EOT facility. We just got here coming in from the Sea of Japan. I think the Far East Base should be fine with the Voltus team and the Cyber Beast force there, but were they shoring up their defenses to deal with this kind of aggression? So a lot of this is going to be continuity and canon-based stuff that I don't have a whole lot of knowledge of, so I'm not going to take a whole lot of time going through this, but it looks like, okay, so Banjo I know because he was the pilot of Daitarn 3, who we saw in Super Robot Wars 3. So now Benkei and Ryoma are heading for Japan for the next mission, but we are at 28 minutes. But this will give us a chance to take a look at the new upgrade board. So we have 15,400 credits. And we can upgrade one of the two Getter Robo G machines, but not all three of them yet. So I'm going to hold off on that. The V-Dash Gundam, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold off on upgrading these for right now. But if we want to, we can go in and upgrade all the weaponry on them as well. Not going to do that either. But parts, I'm definitely going to do. What I want to do is I want to put parts on Dragon and Poseidon. Mainly I want to put the magnet coating on, because the magnet coating, as you see, it boosts the speed and limit. And limit, I still have to double check in this game, because that was not a stat that was available in Super Robot Wars 3. But I believe it is in regards to how much maximum output from like special attacks and everything a mech can do. So I'm going to hold off on that. We've got, let's see. So modules, if we have specialty equipment that we can attach to specific mechs, we can put it in there. If we want to switch pilots to other units, we can do that there. And then we obviously want to save and load, but we also have our pilot information here. So for right now, Ryoma's got Vigor and Strike. He has 4 more skills he can learn. He's got Prevail. And what Prevail is that as he takes damage, his hit rate, his evade rate, and his weapon percentage goes up. Which will be great when he has an actual mech to deal with or to fully control. So I'm going to overwrite that test file we ran, because again, we test all of our games to make sure that they run as they need to. But we are right smack at 30 minutes, so this is actually perfect. And that will wrap episode 1 of Super Robot Wars Alpha Gaiden from 2001 for the PlayStation 1. Again, apologies for how this is all shaken out. It wasn't something we planned. But I think we're going to have a lot more fun on the whole playing this version of Super Robot Wars than Super Robot Wars 3. I can't say that Super Robot Wars 3 is a terrible game. It's just it's got too many flaws to make it one that has held up well by comparison to later games. Banpresto, Bandai Namco, to their credit, cleaned up so much stuff through each subsequent generation and made these games a lot more dynamic graphically, a lot more dynamic control-wise, and by adding more capabilities and more things to make your mechs more powerful and be able to do different things, and by adding more stuff to the mix, it makes the games a lot more fun. And hopefully we will convey that along the way. So, in the meantime, as you've been enjoying the content, as always, you know the way to show it. Be sure to tune in for Sports Saturday and Suckerpunch Sunday this weekend, where we'll be playing a classic sports and fighting platform-based game from the 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th generation. For Sports Saturday, we are still doing our what-if scenario with Sega Sports NFL 2K2 for the Dreamcast in creating the New England Patriots dynasty of the early 2000s without the existence of Tom Brady. We got hammered last week by the New Orleans Saints in just an absolute beatdown. So I think we're 10-2 on the year. We're still in good shape rolling into the playoffs, but we got to make sure we finish the season strong before we get there. So, and also be sure to follow us on social media through Instagram and Threads or on Retrocade. Help spread the word about us as we continue to build this channel and make it bigger and better. My name is Ronan. It's been great to spend this first episode of Super Robot Wars Alpha Gaiden with you. Be safe, be well, happy gaming, and we'll talk to you in the next one. Bye.